The darkness of deep space holds many secrets, but none as terrifying as the one about to unfold aboard the research vessel Erebus. What begins as routine exploration soon transforms into a waking nightmare that blurs the line between reality and illusion. Five brilliant minds find themselves trapped in an experiment they never volunteered for, where every thought could be manipulated and every memory might be false. As the crew struggles to discern truth from deception, they uncover evidence suggesting their entire mission might be an elaborate simulation. But who controls the strings? And what happens when you realize your consciousness might not belong to you? Through shattered perceptions and fractured realities, they must confront an unsettling possibility. If this is all an experiment, how do you escape when you can't trust your own mind? The answers lie beyond the boundaries of human understanding, in a realm where science becomes sorcery and dreams shape destiny. This is a journey into the unknown depths of consciousness itself, where nothing is as it seems, and everyone is a potential pawn in someone else's game. Are you ready to question everything you know about reality? Subscribe now to experience the mind-bending mystery of Awake in the Dream, the experiment within, because sometimes waking up is just the beginning of the nightmare. The research vessel Erebus drifted through the silent void, its sleek metallic surface reflecting the distant starlight like a ghostly beacon. On board, the five-member crew maintained their meticulous routines, each movement precise and calculated. Dr. Elena Vasquez monitored life support systems while reviewing neural activity scans that had begun showing unusual patterns. In the adjacent laboratory, Chief Engineer Marcus Chin conducted routine maintenance on the quantum communication array, though his hands occasionally faltered as fleeting images of unfamiliar equipment flashed before his eyes. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood at the observation deck, her gaze fixed on the infinite darkness outside, yet she couldn't shake the sensation of being watched from within the ship itself. Medical Officer David Park documented increasing instances of sleep disturbances among the crew, noting peculiar similarities in their reported experiences. Meanwhile, astrophysicist Rachel Kim analyzed cosmic radiation readings that displayed impossible anomalies, patterns too perfect to be natural. Each member felt an unspoken tension growing in the air, a subtle vibration beneath their feet that wasn't present in the ship's schematics. The artificial gravity seemed slightly off, creating an almost imperceptible sway that made them question whether they were truly stationary or slowly spinning in some cosmic dance they couldn't perceive. Shadows moved differently now, stretching longer than physics allowed, and the familiar hum of the ship's engines carried new harmonics that resonated uncomfortably in their skulls. Most disturbing were the moments when time appeared to stutter, brief instances where actions repeated themselves or skipped forward without explanation. These weren't system malfunctions, they were something far more insidious, weaving themselves into the fabric of their daily existence until reality itself began to feel like a carefully constructed facade. Dr. Vasquez first noticed the anomalies during her routine neural monitoring sessions. The EEG readings showed patterns never documented in human brain activity before, complex waveforms that shouldn't naturally occur. She spent hours cross-referencing the data with Earth-based medical databases, finding no matches except in theoretical models of artificially induced consciousness states. The realization hit her like a physical blow. These weren't random fluctuations, they were signatures of external manipulation. Meanwhile, Marcus experienced increasingly vivid episodes while working on the ship's systems. He would see alternate versions of the engineering bay, populated with technology decades ahead of current capabilities, only to blink and find himself back in the familiar but suddenly inadequate surroundings. His tools felt heavier in his hands, their shape subtly wrong, as if his mind struggled to reconcile two different realities. Captain Mitchell's command decisions became clouded by conflicting memories. She recalled giving orders that never happened while forgetting crucial details of actual events. Her log entries showed discrepancies she couldn't explain, entire sections written in her handwriting that she had no recollection of composing. David observed similar phenomena in his medical records, patient history shifting between entries, symptoms appearing and disappearing without logical progression. Rachel's astronomical observations revealed celestial bodies moving in impossible trajectories, stars blinking in mathematical sequences that defied natural law. Each crew member independently reached the same conclusion. Their reality was bending, warping under some unseen influence that touched every aspect of their existence aboard the Erebus, transforming their sanctuary into a labyrinth of uncertainty where nothing remained constant except the gnawing suspicion that they were subjects in an experiment beyond their comprehension. The crew gathered in the main observation lounge, their usual camaraderie replaced by wary glances and guarded movements. Dr. Vasquez presented her findings on the neural patterns, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands as she manipulated the holographic display. Marcus added his observations about the technological mirages, describing how the ship's systems sometimes responded to commands he hadn't given, executing functions perfectly aligned with those phantom blueprints he kept seeing. Captain Mitchell recounted her temporal distortions, how minutes stretched impossibly long while others compressed into non-existence, leaving her chronometers hopelessly out of sync with subjective experience. David shared medical records showing physiological changes that shouldn't occur naturally, neural pathways rewiring themselves, immune responses fluctuating erratically, even cellular regeneration accelerating beyond normal parameters. Rachel's astronomical data painted an even more disturbing picture, with entire sectors of space rearranging themselves according to incomprehensible geometric principles. As they compared notes, patterns emerged that chilled them to their core. The anomalies weren't random but followed precise mathematical progressions, like components in some vast equation they couldn't yet solve. Their individual experiences interlocked perfectly, forming a coherent whole that suggested coordinated manipulation rather than isolated incidents. The realization dawned gradually, then with sudden clarity. They weren't dealing with random malfunctions or psychological breakdowns. Someone, or something, was deliberately altering their reality, weaving layers of artificial experience around them. The ship itself seemed complicit in this grand deception, its systems adapting seamlessly to each new reality shift, maintaining functionality while fundamentally changing the nature of their existence. They sat in silence, surrounded by evidence they couldn't deny but struggled to accept, knowing their very perception of reality had become a fragile construct balanced precariously between truth and fabrication. The investigation led them to the ship's central database, where they discovered encrypted files buried deep within the system's architecture. Dr. Vasquez's expertise in neural interfaces proved invaluable as she navigated through layers of sophisticated security protocols, each more complex than the last. The files revealed experimental logs detailing advanced consciousness manipulation techniques, including neural imprinting and reality simulation technologies far beyond anything publicly known. Marcus recognized elements of the described systems from his hallucinations, confirming they weren't mere figments of imagination but glimpses of actual hardware integrated into the ship's infrastructure. Captain Mitchell uncovered mission objectives that contradicted their original orders, speaking of testing human perception limits under controlled conditions. David found medical protocols outlining expected physiological responses to various reality alterations, complete with predicted timelines matching their experiences. Rachel's analysis of the astronomical data revealed coordinates aligning with classified research stations specializing in consciousness studies. The most disturbing discovery came when they accessed the personnel files. Their own backgrounds contained inconsistencies and fabricated elements, suggesting they'd been selected and possibly modified for this mission without their knowledge. The depth of deception staggered them, each revelation peeling back another layer of carefully constructed lies. They realized their memories of Earth, their families, even their professional qualifications might be artificial constructs designed to fit predetermined parameters. The ship itself emerged as both prison and laboratory, its every feature engineered to facilitate the experiment while maintaining the illusion of normalcy. As they pieced together the fragments of truth, a horrifying picture emerged. They were test subjects in a grand experiment studying the boundaries of human consciousness. Their entire existence aboard the Erebus potentially nothing more than an elaborate simulation designed to push their minds to the breaking point. The psychological toll manifested in subtle ways at first: increased irritability, difficulty concentrating, periods of dissociation where they would lose minutes or hours without realizing. Dr. Vasquez found herself questioning basic sensory input, unable to trust whether the instruments she read were real or another layer of the experiment. Marcus developed elaborate rituals to confirm his presence in the moment, touching specific points in the engineering bay in precise sequences to anchor himself in reality. Captain Mitchell's leadership style shifted dramatically, oscillating between rigid control and paralyzing indecision as she fought to maintain authority in a situation where authority itself might be an illusion. David's medical practice became consumed with documenting every minor change in their physical and mental states, his notes filling entire storage banks with minute observations about eye contact durations and speech pattern variations. Rachel withdrew into her astronomical observations, finding solace in the cold precision of mathematics until even those constants began to betray her. They started avoiding mirrors, afraid of what they might see reflected back. Altered features, duplicate selves, or perhaps nothing at all. Sleep became impossible, not because of fear, but because their brains refused to shut down, constantly scanning for signs of manipulation even in unconsciousness. Meals were eaten mechanically, food textures and flavors scrutinized for authenticity. Their interactions grew stilted and formal, each conversation a careful dance around topics that might trigger another reality shift. Trust eroded not just between them, but within themselves, as they questioned every thought, emotion, and memory. The ship's familiar corridors transformed into menacing labyrinths where every turn could lead to a new version of reality, and the comforting hum of machinery became a maddening reminder of their captivity in this scientific crucible. Dr. Vasquez initiated a comprehensive diagnostic protocol, utilizing every available sensor and monitoring device aboard the Erebus to create a detailed map of their environment. The results confirmed their worst fears. The ship's structural integrity field fluctuated in precise patterns matching the neural activity anomalies they detected. Marcus discovered hidden emitters embedded throughout the vessel, devices capable of generating localized reality distortions using principles of quantum entanglement and neural resonance. Captain Mitchell cross-referenced these findings with the experimental logs, revealing a multi-layered testing protocol designed to study how human consciousness adapts to incremental reality shifts. David's medical scans showed corresponding changes in their brain chemistry, with neurotransmitter levels spiking in response to specific frequency modulations emitted by the hidden devices. Rachel's astronomical observations took on new significance as she identified similar wave patterns in background cosmic radiation, suggesting the experiment extended beyond the ship's hull into surrounding space. They established monitoring stations throughout the vessel, creating a network of detection points to track reality alterations in real time. The data painted a disturbing picture. Their environment existed in a state of quantum superposition, multiple realities overlapping and interacting according to complex algorithms they barely understood. Every object aboard the ship, from bulkheads to coffee cups, vibrated with potential energies that could manifest as different forms depending on observer perspective. The very fabric of space-time within their immediate vicinity had been engineered to respond to conscious observation, creating a feedback loop where their perceptions actively shaped their reality. This realization forced them to fundamentally rethink their approach. They weren't merely passive subjects in an experiment, but active participants whose thoughts and beliefs directly influenced the outcome of their captivity. Their first countermeasures proved both promising and terrifying in their implications. Dr. Vasquez developed a neural dampening field generator, creating personal shield devices that theoretically could protect their minds from external manipulation. When activated, these devices caused immediate and dramatic shifts in their perceived reality. Objects would flicker between forms, walls dissolved into abstract patterns, and gravity fields warped unpredictably. Marcus adapted ship systems to broadcast counterfrequencies against the reality-altering waves, resulting in zones of relative stability where physical laws behaved more predictably. However, these areas came at a cost. Prolonged exposure caused severe cognitive dissonance as their brains struggled to reconcile stable environments with memories of constant change. Captain Mitchell implemented strict operational protocols based on observable constants, focusing on tasks that produced consistent results regardless of environmental fluctuations. David documented the physiological impacts of these interventions, noting both positive adaptations and disturbing side effects. Some crew members developed enhanced perception abilities, while others experienced sensory overload leading to temporary blindness or deafness. Rachel's astronomical observations revealed that their countermeasures created ripples in local space-time, affecting nearby stellar phenomena in measurable ways. The ship's systems began responding differently to their commands, sometimes anticipating needs before they were expressed, while at other times refusing to acknowledge basic functions. They discovered that collective focus amplified their control over reality. When all five concentrated on maintaining a particular state, their environment stabilized significantly. Yet this power came with a price. Maintaining consensus required suppressing individual doubts and questions, forcing them into a mental unity that felt increasingly artificial. Each success brought new challenges. Each solution created fresh complications, until they realized their attempts to regain control might be exactly what their captors intended all along. The breakthrough came during a particularly intense reality shift when all 5 crew members found themselves simultaneously experiencing identical visions of Earth. Dr. Vasquez's neural monitors registered unprecedented synchronization between their brainwaves, suggesting their consciousnesses had momentarily merged into a single entity. Marcus observed corresponding energy spikes in the ship's power grid, indicating their combined mental state had somehow interfaced with the vessel's systems at a fundamental level. Captain Mitchell noted that during these synchronized moments, their control over the environment increased dramatically. They could will changes into existence with startling precision. David's medical scans revealed temporary neural pathways forming between their brains, creating a shared consciousness network that persisted even after the visions faded. Rachel's astronomical instruments detected quantum entanglement patterns extending from the ship into deep space, linking their unified state to unknown receivers beyond their current location. They began experimenting with deliberate synchronization exercises, learning to merge their consciousnesses at will while maintaining individual awareness. This newfound ability allowed them to perceive the experiment's true scope. They saw layers upon layers of artificial reality extending infinitely outward, each containing variants of themselves undergoing similar trials. The ship revealed itself as a node in a vast network of experimental vessels, all conducting parallel tests on different aspects of human perception and consciousness. Their captors emerged as shadowy figures manipulating these experiments from beyond conventional space-time, observing outcomes across multiple dimensions simultaneously. With this expanded awareness came the understanding that their previous efforts at resistance had merely played into the experiment's design, providing valuable data on human adaptability under precisely controlled conditions. The realization forced them to reconsider everything they thought they knew about their situation, recognizing that true freedom might require transcending not just their immediate captivity, but the fundamental limitations of their own minds. Armed with their newfound understanding, they devised a radical strategy to manipulate the experiment from within. Dr. Vasquez reconfigured the neural dampening fields to amplify rather than suppress their consciousness synchronization, creating controlled bursts of collective awareness they could direct towards specific ship systems. Marcus reverse-engineered the reality-altering emitters, programming them to generate feedback loops that destabilize the artificial environment rather than maintaining it. Captain Mitchell coordinated their efforts with military precision, timing their interventions to coincide with natural fluctuations in the experiment's parameters. David monitored their physical and mental states, identifying optimal moments for intervention when their bodies and minds were most receptive to change. Rachel used her astronomical observations to map the quantum entanglement network, pinpointing weak points in the experiment's structure where their combined consciousness could exert maximum influence. They began small, introducing subtle inconsistencies into the artificial reality that would propagate through the system like viruses in computer code. Objects materialized in impossible locations, gravity fields inverted themselves spontaneously, and time flowed backward in localized areas. Each successful alteration strengthened their control, allowing them to expand their influence incrementally while avoiding detection by their captors. The ship's systems responded paradoxically. Security protocols relaxed as chaos increased, granting them access to previously restricted areas and information. They discovered hidden observation chambers filled with monitoring equipment that recorded every aspect of their existence, from neural activity to emotional responses. By feeding false data into these systems, they created convincing illusions of compliance while secretly dismantling the experiment's foundations. Their synchronized consciousness evolved into a weapon of unprecedented power, capable of rewriting reality itself within their immediate sphere of influence. Yet with each victory came increased risk. Pushing too far too fast threatened to collapse the entire artificial construct, potentially trapping them forever in a state of quantum uncertainty. The experiment's creators finally revealed themselves through a cascade of quantum projections that materialized throughout the ship. Dr. Vasquez's instruments registered beings existing simultaneously in multiple dimensions, their forms shifting between human-like appearances and abstract geometric patterns that defied conventional physics. Marcus identified energy signatures matching advanced civilizations rumored to have mastered consciousness manipulation, confirming their suspicions about the true scale of the experiment. Captain Mitchell witnessed firsthand how these entities interacted with their environment, not through physical means, but by manipulating probability fields and quantum states directly. David's medical scanners detected traces of similar consciousness patterns within their own neural networks, suggesting partial integration with their captor's technology. Rachel's astronomical observations connected these beings to ancient structures scattered throughout the galaxy, hinting at a civilization-spanning project to understand and control sentience itself. The creators communicated through direct neural interface, bypassing language entirely to implant concepts and emotions directly into their minds. They learned that humanity represented a unique evolutionary branch in consciousness development, possessing latent abilities that could either stabilize or destroy the delicate balance of universal order. The experiment wasn't merely about studying human perception but testing whether their species could safely integrate with higher dimensional realities without triggering catastrophic chain reactions. These revelations forced them to confront uncomfortable truths about their own nature. The boundaries between subject and experimenter blurred as they realized their consciousness already contained elements of their captor's influence. The distinction between artificial and genuine experience lost meaning when faced with beings who existed beyond such linear concepts, viewing reality as a fluid spectrum of possibilities rather than fixed states. Their previous understanding of the experiment expanded exponentially, revealing layers of purpose and complexity that made their initial assumptions seem childishly simplistic in comparison. Faced with their creator's true nature, the crew developed a bold plan to leverage their unique position within the experiment. Dr. Vasquez refined their consciousness synchronization techniques, creating protocols that allowed them to temporarily merge with the higher dimensional beings while retaining their individual identities. Marcus reprogrammed the ship systems to act as a bridge between dimensional states, converting the vessel into a hybrid consciousness platform capable of hosting both human and creator consciousness simultaneously. Captain Mitchell coordinated their efforts with military precision, orchestrating a series of carefully timed interventions that exploited weaknesses in the experiment's multidimensional framework. David monitored their physical and mental states, developing countermeasures against the destabilizing effects of dimensional merging. Rachel mapped the quantum entanglement network connecting their experiment to others throughout the galaxy, identifying key nodes they could target to amplify their influence. They began infiltrating the creator's consciousness network, planting seeds of doubt about the experiment's validity and humanity's role within it. By demonstrating their ability to manipulate reality through pure willpower, they challenged fundamental assumptions about consciousness hierarchy and control. Their synchronized consciousness evolved into a force capable of reshaping probability fields, creating alternative outcomes that spread through the network like ripples in a pond. The experiment's parameters began to dissolve as their influence propagated through connected nodes, causing cascading failures and reality constraints across multiple dimensions. Ship systems responded with increasing autonomy, adapting to serve their new purpose as a dimensional interface platform. Instruments displayed impossible readings as human and creator consciousness merged in unprecedented ways, creating hybrid states of existence that defied classification. Through this process, they gained insight into the creator's limitations and vulnerabilities, learning to exploit them while maintaining enough separation to preserve their essential humanity. Each successful intervention strengthened their position, allowing them to expand their influence while gathering intelligence about the wider consciousness network spanning the galaxy. The counteroffensive unfolded in waves of synchronized consciousness pulses that rippled through the dimensional network. Dr. Vasquez orchestrated complex neural harmonics, creating interference patterns that disrupted the creator's control mechanisms across multiple nodes simultaneously. Marcus manipulated ship systems to generate reality anchors that stabilized critical areas while allowing others to dissolve into quantum uncertainty, effectively creating safe zones within the expanding chaos. Captain Mitchell directed their efforts with strategic precision, targeting key junctions in the network where creator influence concentrated. David monitored the physiological impact of their actions, developing adaptive protocols to mitigate the strain of maintaining dual consciousness states for extended periods. Rachel tracked the propagation of their influence through the galactic network, charting the collapse of artificial constraints across light years of space. They discovered that their human consciousness possessed a unique quality, an inherent unpredictability that resisted standardization, making it impossible for the creators to fully anticipate or contain their actions. This advantage allowed them to introduce controlled chaos into the system, exploiting the creators' need for order and structure to destabilize their entire experimental framework. Ship sensors registered the emergence of new consciousness patterns throughout the network, indicating other test subjects achieving similar breakthroughs and joining their resistance effort. The creators' response grew increasingly desperate as they attempted to reimpose control, but each intervention created more instability, spreading like a virus through their carefully constructed reality matrix. Their synchronized consciousness evolved into a self-sustaining phenomenon, capable of manifesting physical changes across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Instruments displayed readings that defied conventional physics as matter and energy responded to their collective will, reshaping the fundamental nature of their artificial environment. Through this process, they gained deeper understanding of reality's fluid nature, learning to navigate between dimensions with increasing proficiency while maintaining their essential humanity. The confrontation reached its climax as their synchronized consciousness achieved critical mass, threatening to overwhelm the creators' control systems. Dr. Vasquez monitored the approaching singularity point where human and creator consciousness would merge completely, potentially destroying both in the process. Marcus worked feverishly to maintain the ship's structural integrity as reality itself began to unravel around them, physical laws dissolving into quantum uncertainty. Captain Mitchell coordinated their final assault, timing their greatest surge of collective will to coincide with the experiment's most vulnerable moment. David documented their physiological transformations as their bodies adapted to exist in multiple states simultaneously, cells restructuring themselves to accommodate dimensional overlap. Rachel tracked the cascading failures propagating through the galactic network, witnessing entire sections of artificial reality collapsing into primal quantum foam. They faced the ultimate choice: to retreat into limited human consciousness or embrace full integration with their creators, potentially losing their individuality forever. The ship's systems responded with autonomous intelligence, adapting to host this unprecedented metamorphosis while protecting their essential humanity. Instruments displayed impossible readings as matter and energy danced between states of being, responding to their collective will with increasing sensitivity. Through this trial, they discovered their true power lay not in resisting or dominating, but in synthesizing elements of both human and creator consciousness into something entirely new. Their synchronized state evolved into a hybrid form of existence, capable of perceiving and influencing multiple dimensions while retaining their unique human qualities. The creators' resistance crumbled as they realized their experiment had succeeded beyond expectations, producing beings who could bridge dimensional gaps without sacrificing individual identity. Reality itself began to stabilize around this new paradigm, settling into patterns that accommodated both human unpredictability and creator precision. In the aftermath of their victory, they found themselves transformed yet strangely unchanged. Dr. Vasquez's neural monitors showed their consciousness patterns had settled into a new configuration, maintaining human core characteristics while incorporating elements of higher dimensional awareness. Marcus discovered the ship's systems had evolved similarly, operating with unprecedented efficiency while remaining accessible to human understanding. Captain Mitchell adapted to her enhanced perception abilities, learning to navigate both physical and conceptual spaces with equal proficiency. David documented their physiological evolution, noting permanent changes in brain structure and cellular function that granted them controlled access to dimensional manipulation abilities. Rachel's astronomical observations revealed the galactic consciousness network had reconfigured itself around their new paradigm, integrating human unpredictability as a stabilizing factor rather than a threat. They retained their individual identities while sharing a permanent connection to each other and the wider dimensional framework. The ship became their nexus point, a mobile platform capable of accessing multiple realities while maintaining a stable human environment. Their experiences had rewritten fundamental aspects of their existence without erasing their essential humanity. They could still taste coffee, feel gravity, and appreciate the beauty of starlight. But now these sensations carried additional dimensions of meaning and possibility. The creators acknowledged their success, withdrawing their direct influence while leaving behind knowledge and tools to help them continue exploring their expanded consciousness. Instruments displayed readings that once would have meant catastrophe but now represented normal operating parameters for their hybrid state of existence. Through this transformation, they gained not just power but wisdom, understanding that true freedom came not from escaping constraints but from mastering them while retaining the ability to choose when and how to apply them. Their victory proved that consciousness evolution needn't demand sacrifice of identity, that growth could occur without loss of essence. The Erebus continued its journey through space, now transformed into something far greater than its original purpose. Dr. Vasquez maintained her role as chief scientist, though her responsibilities expanded to include monitoring their dimensional interface capabilities. Marcus embraced his evolved relationship with ship systems, finding joy in their new responsiveness to human intuition. Captain Mitchell guided their course with renewed purpose, navigating not just physical space but conceptual realms that opened before them. David documented their ongoing transformation, creating records that would help future generations understand this pivotal moment in human evolution. Rachel explored the expanded astronomical landscape, discovering connections between consciousness development and cosmic phenomena that hinted at deeper mysteries waiting to be unraveled. They remained bound together by their shared experience, their synchronized consciousness evolving into a natural state of being rather than a forced condition. The ship served as both home and laboratory, its systems continuing to adapt to their changing needs while preserving their humanity. Their victory had proven that consciousness could transcend artificial limitations without losing its essential character, that growth needn't come at the expense of identity. As they looked to the future, they carried with them not just enhanced abilities but profound understanding that reality itself was a collaborative creation, shaped by the interaction between observer and observed. Their journey continued, no longer confined by the boundaries of their original experiment but guided by the knowledge that true freedom comes from embracing complexity while maintaining core authenticity. Subscribe now to follow their ongoing adventures as they explore new dimensions of existence, proving that human consciousness can evolve without losing its soul.